Today we're talking about school safety, and we're not talking about school safety from a headline perspective, but we're really talking about a practical perspective. I'm here with Randall Dennis. Thank you for joining us. You
My pleasure.
recently wrote a new book, and the book's titled Keeping Schools Safe and Secure. So I think what's nice about this book, Randall, is it's challenging how we think about risk and how we prepare for events. And it's not just these critical headline news making events. It's about what's happening behind the scenes in the homes and how parents can become a partner
Mhm.
in all of this and help us solve some of these issues. So,
Right.
really excited to have the discussion with you.
Thanks
And
so much.
Randall, let's start at the core of your book. You
Mhm.
talk about this distinction between risk and actual incidents, right?
Right.
So, why do we focus so much on these incidents,
Mhm.
these headline making news stories? And what should we be focusing on every day instead of those that can maybe actually make a difference?
Yeah, it's very natural due to today's media and particularly social media now that like we know in most news channels, what bleeds leads. And so when there's clickbait, these enormously tragic things that happen in these mass shootings, we see these images and they're very graphic and they're repeated over and over again and they're carried over into social media. And it's a very natural thing to, when one thinks of school safety and security, to just be myopic and think of those things. When in reality, what's going on is not only are they pushing that out there so much because it's good for their revenue, but also there are certain political agendas associated with that too, with certain groups, right? And the truth of the matter is, the odds of your kid being in a school mass shooting is 1 in 81,000 a year.
Yeah, that's a lot lower of a
Hmm.
probability than I think we think. It seems
Yes.
like these things happen every day, and they definitely happen way too
Well,
frequently,
yes.
right? It's a sad, sad world,
Right.
but it's not like it's impacting every single student every single day. It's
Yes.
just the media blows these up.
Agreed. And two, the numbers become skewed sometimes because any gun incident will be listed as a school shooting. For instance, if there is a holdup in the baseball field after hours, it doesn't have anything to do with the school at all.
And that ends up counting.
That ends up being
Yeah.
in the statistic. And so in truth, your kids are more likely to be struggling and encounter bullying, theft, drug incidents, risk of being even picked up by somebody that shouldn't pick them up, whether it's even a family member that's
Mm.
a threat. And so, and that varies too, depending on geography and whether you're in inner city, suburban, rural, whatnot. So all I'm trying to say is let's back away and take our foot off the fear pedal and try to be a lot more realistic about the real incidents that occur, not the threats that we're afraid will happen.
Yeah. So I think that probably leads us into how should a school respond then, right?
Hmm.
So schools, there's things that they can do,
Hmm.
maybe a layered approach to security,
Right.
and it might be some softer things. It doesn't always have to be technology. We're in the technology world, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be technology. It
Yeah.
probably shouldn't be technology every single time.
Right.
What's maybe the most common false sense of security that schools fall into?
Inevitably, particularly if you talk to school leaders like superintendents or other people of influence in a school situation, the first thing that'll come to mind is they'll talk about video surveillance or perhaps SROs, the resource officers. And neither of those are a strategy, let alone a layered strategy. SROs, as good as they are, even when you have the best of them, the school resource officer, I should say what the acronym is, they can't be everywhere at once. And gratefully, as technology is improving with more and more sensors and cameras and other things that's out there and empowered by AI and analytics, uh, the school can have 1,000 eyes and ears and even noses, we know now,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah. Some of the sensors that
right.
are available today, they give so much intelligence, and
Hmm.
that's really what I think it boils down to is all these data points of intelligence that can alert us to things before maybe something tragic happens.
Yeah, I mean, it takes, for instance, even video surveillance and some of these other tools from a reactive standpoint where you're documenting what happened and trying to figure it out, to a proactive standpoint where the AI can actually identify sounds that are threats. Or, for instance, cameras with high resolution can even see across the ball field or across the parking lot, and identify activity that's dangerous or hopefully not guns, but if that's the case, guns and knives and that sort of thing.
But it could be fighting, loud noises.
Absolutely.
And I think part of it can't just be the intelligence. There has to be some actionable thing to go along with that. So yeah, there's SROs or resource officers throughout the district. Sometimes some districts only have a single SRO across many buildings, and you can't be everywhere at one time. So how can that person take that intelligence, and how can events that are happening automate that person's response? Like, how do they know immediately there's something that sounds like a fight happening? Here's notification that this is where you should go, and here's the location.
Right.
What incredible information that is to respond faster.
Thank goodness, because I see those technologies, even though technology is not always the answer, we've discussed that, those technologies augment, reinforce, and they're a force multiplier for SROs if they're used appropriately.
If single solutions, even if they're layered, or a single solution like just video or just access control, if that's not enough, which it often isn't, then there has to be something else that we can do. And in my brain, that leads me to culture. So in your opinion, you wrote in your book a lot about communication and trust. So why is culture so important? Is it more important than access control and video and these technology pieces? Is it a combined piece?
It's combined. I mean, ultimately, we have a tendency to forget that this is all about community. I mean, an education environment is a community with these different stakeholders in play: parents, students, teachers, administrators. And at the core of a community is communication. You know, it's a shared issue, where you're sharing thoughts. And ultimately, if we as parents are arriving on the scene and we lack the knowledge to communicate effectively to the right person about the right issue, that's why I spend so much time in the book about know the players and the appropriate questions for the right person. If we show up with that kind of ignorance, we only discredit ourselves and marginalize ourselves, and we don't really get anything done because it goes nowhere, right?
Yeah.
But even apart from that, I mean, if we're approaching these school leaders with the respect that they deserve, we may be frustrated, we may be ignorant, we don't want to be ignorant, we want to be knowledgeable. But I think it's a lot of times we don't give school leaders a break, because coming in with whatever our problem is, whether it's security or some other issue, we're not always aware of the fact that not only are they dealing with people like us, they're dealing with mandates from the state and mandates from the federal government. They're dealing with initiatives that are being pressed on them. They're dealing with other parents who have problems too, and other students. And all of this at the time while they're trying to educate our kids, And I just want to cut them some slack and try to approach them and model, even with your kids, those sort of questions to the leaders that you would want your child to learn in terms of interacting and taking part in a community, and collaborate and contribute rather than tear down or just needlessly disrespect somebody. And I think you find in most situations when school leaders find you coming at them like that with appreciation and wanting to truly collaborate and contribute, it changes the whole demeanor of the relationship. And they're short on funds, they're short on time, they're short on nerves probably.
I'm sure.
And so we can advocate for them, we can support them. Some parent may be really good at researching grants, for instance, and it doesn't even just have to be security grants, it could be grants in general, and that they can contribute and be a part of something, and also, or be a liaison with the PTA, PTO, those sorts of organizations. And I think in part, not only do you develop that kind of community, but when there's that sort of visibility around security, so that everybody understands you're not building a prison, you're building a fortress, and that you're security and safety minded, what elevates that issue amongst everybody. And we also have these studies that show that when perpetrators of wrong recognize that a place is a hardened target, whatever that method is, and those cues are, they find softer targets to hit for theft or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so I'm one of those rare people that, some people want security to be pretty much hidden, but I like to see it and have it talked about, and even promoted sometimes in public relations, like the press in your locality, so that people just know, oh wow, I don't need to go to school XYZ because they're on top of things.
I think it comes down to the communication piece at that point. People are scared to have this conversation, I think, often. And the more we communicate, the more that we collaborate and act as partners together, then the better that we're going to deliver success to the community and our students.
Yeah, I can see that.
So you talked a little bit about the communication piece, and I like to say that people are, I use the word messy. People are
Oh
very
yeah,
messy, right?
yeah.
And in personal relationships and work
I
relationships,
guarantee you, I'm messy.
we have maybe not. We've had good communication, but
Right.
in our personal lives, we always like
Mm,
the root of, it seems, all problems is poor communication. So the more
hmm.
that we can work on that and be better communicators, I think that that helps overall, whether it's at school safety or whether it's in your personal life. I think that's
Yeah,
important.
yeah, no doubt.
You touched a little bit on the parent piece and how
Hmm.
parents need to be partners and they shouldn't be critics. What is maybe the fastest way that a parent not acting as a partner, maybe not understanding that they're not acting as a partner and acting as a critic, what's a simple way that they tear that relationship down or cause um, unneeded stress or problems, maybe for the
Hmm.
administrator, maybe for the student?
From my perspective, if I'm disrespectful to you and rude, or I have an unrealistic expectation or things like that, unfortunately, that is the only window that that person has into your life and who you are,
Yeah,
and you so discredit yourself
yeah,
and probably your student as well,
yeah,
you know. And so even the issue may be poorly framed, may be legitimate, and you've probably delegitimized the issue and made it as nothing too. Does
yeah,
that make any sense?
yeah,
So, uh, in my view, and the reason I wrote the book was, and I took care to say, well, these are the roles, and here's generally the methods of how safety and security are done, and here are generally a lot of the tools associated with that, whether they be strategies or technologies or whatnot. That's supposed to inform the parent so that they can communicate more effectively
yeah.
and probably get to the heart of what they want to resolve. I just think that I just encourage parents to reach out and try to have those meaningful, crucial conversations with leaders and build that rapport. Because I think parents vastly underestimate their own power
Yeah.
and effectiveness. By power, I don't mean wielding power, you know,
Sure.
like a bull in
Yeah,
a china
yeah.
closet. I'm just saying the ability to change things.
Maybe it's influence.
That's a
Yeah,
much better word.
yeah,
Yeah, much better
influence.
word.
They are very influential, and their children look up to them. I, I see this a lot, even in the corporate world, where
Hmm.
people are just sometimes cruel to each other. And
Mm.
I heard a keynote speaker the other day, and he said something that really stuck with me. And he said,
What's
"We
that?
need to be more human.
Oh
Be
yeah.
human."
Uh-huh.
And it's sad that we have to say that, and that we maybe use technology to hide behind a keyboard and say really nasty things sometimes. And I think those interactions, that influence that the children see, they see that as being acceptable. And I
Hmm.
think that's why we see a lot of the problems that we see in schools today with bullying and fights and
Hmm.
gun violence in those situations. So um, I think parents and maybe just the world in general, we all need to be a little more human, be a little more respectful,
Hmm.
communicate better. Maybe to wrap this up, you, I really like that in the book, you're not just like picking out the problems. It's not just, oh,
Hmm.
this is the problem, this is the problem. You give
Right.
advice for things that people can do, actionable things that people can do. And you touched a little bit on that with maybe it's volunteering time because you're good at something and you can take something off an administrator's plate and help them and uh, do a service.
Hmm.
But if there's parents or if there's parents listening out there today,
Hmm.
then if they had to take one practical step tomorrow, this week,
Hmm.
what would your advice be to them?
I would say educate yourself, and it doesn't have to be by buying my book. Frankly, I mean, if you, it saves you a lot of time because if you don't know what you're asking about, essentially,
Yeah.
you've got to do a lot of digging around on the internet to get a lot of that information rather than brought together in one place. But educating yourself so that you know what the key pillars are to a successful program in your school and how to relate effectively to those leaders in such a way that you really, really are building bridges rather than walls, and that you are moving towards common goals together.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, so I would say educate yourself. That's the number one issue.
I really appreciate the message. I
Oh, thank you.
think safety is layered. Safety
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be all technology.
Agreed.
It's culture,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you're bringing some balance to the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been doing security and safety for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You've been playing in the education space for a long time. You've seen a lot. You've heard a lot of stories.
Yeah.
I would encourage anybody listening to check out Randall's book. You can buy it on Amazon. I'll put a QR code down at the bottom so you can
Oh,
access it
thank you.
easy. But I think it will enlighten you. It will give you steps and guidelines to be a better parent, to help form the future of our society.
Hmm.
And I think overall, it's a great read. It's very informative, and I
Well,
really
thank you.
enjoyed reading it.
Well, thank you.
Any final thoughts for the
Uh,
audience?
this may seem random, but as you can tell by the color of my hair, I'm grandparent age now, and I have little ones that they're not old enough to be in schools yet, right? But I think a lot of people in retirement or semi-retirement underestimate how they can use their time to contribute to their local schools, and that uh, these same elements that we just spoke of make so much sense there too. And I mean, I see people my age or older contributing to voting. They're contributing to their church or synagogue or
Yeah,
whatever, in
yeah,
terms of time and donating
yeah.
things. And I would just really encourage people to investigate how they might be able to devote time and energy to their local schools.
So I said we're wrapping up, but you brought up a good point. So now I
Okay,
want to talk about
let's
this.
go. Let's go.
So I couldn't agree with that more. I think with the advancement of technology and things like AI, and not just ChatGPT, but
Hmm.
AI where there's agents doing things for us, we're going to have more time. And I think when that
Oh.
happens, we all sort of lose a sense of purpose. And I think what a great opportunity to have true purpose, to do really good things. You're going
Hmm.
to have more time to do it. And the more time, you're not just sitting there staring at your screen
Hmm.
and wasting time, but you could
Hmm.
actually do a lot of good.
Well,
So,
and purpose. I mean, let's talk about that just one more second. I mean, in my involvement with the company I work for, Convergent, we cover airports, data centers. I mean, I've been
yeah,
involved in data centers, airports, hospitals, education, of course, manufacturing, logistics. You can go down convention centers, et cetera.
yeah,
But in my view, I mean, part of my calling is to protect the innocent and vulnerable, if that makes any
yeah.
sense.
Makes a lot of
And in
sense.
my view, there are so many kids that are just lost in the school system.
Hmm.
They may have be one of several kids with a single mom. They have no father figure, et cetera, et cetera. And they're in a vulnerable spot. Same thing with healthcare to a great degree, or
Yeah,
assisted
sure.
living. And so I think while it's always fulfilling to protect people and properties or assets and brand reputations of organizations, it's even more fulfilling when you get to know that you see the human faces a lot more of school students or patients in a hospital or whatnot. That you're really doing the Lord's work, so to speak.
Sure.
For lack of a better phrase.
Well, this has been great. Again, QR code again down here for the link to Amazon. It's a paperback version, correct?
Right.
Or
Paperback
you'll
or
have
Kindle, and Audible will be out in a few more
Kindle
months.
and Audible soon.
Mhm.
So check it out. Do yourself a favor. Help out a friend. Pick it up for a friend. Take it. Give it to a teacher. Take it to a PTA meeting. Let's spread the word. Let's have the conversation. Let's improve the world.
Yeah. Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks.
So good.